Hello everyone, this is Kat and welcome back to My Hero Academia Podfic. This will be the continuation of Fallen Baby Birds. This will be Part 6, Chapter 6, entitled In Another Life. Izuku is basically vibrating in his car seat as they pull up to his and Keigo's school, picking up the winged boy. He couldn't wait to tell his brother about his day. Despite being asleep for most of it, he got to see UA and meet a few pros that he hadn't even met before, especially considering the fact that most pros at UA went to the holiday events that he and his family attended. Careful, baby bunny, you might phase through that car seat if you shake any faster. His papa's joking from where he's looking at Izuku through the front view mirror, and Izuku just giggles, legs slumping up and down against the car seat. Hizashi's eyes soften, silently relieved that his son is feeling better. He glances over to his husband, who's staring at the entrance of the school, waiting for Keigo to walk out alongside a certain red-headed boy. The loud man reaches his hand over and takes Aizawa's into his own, giving it a comforting squeeze, which makes his husband sigh fondly. "Key!" Izuku squeals when he sees his brother through the car window, rolling it down with his button and practically leaning out of the car seat to wave at the blonde-haired boy. Said boy was pulled out of the conversation he was having with his friend next to him when hearing his brother call for him and immediately smiles, rushing forward toward the car window and grabbing both of Izuku's hands gently. "Hey, you hatchling, you have a good day?" Keigo questions enthusiastically, noting how Izuku was bouncing in place. His little brother nods rapidly, opening his mouth to start rambling, but shutting it when spotting Keigo's friend appear behind him. He doesn't stop bouncing, but he does tilt his head curiously, Keigo following his little brother's gaze and snorting. "This is Touya. Dad and Pops told you about him, yeah?" The red-headed boy in question raises a hand and waves with a small smile, wary of the parents in the front of the car, but soft for the excited 5-year-old that Keigo always talks about. He knows too well who the boy reminds him of, another certain 5-year-old who can be just as excitable when he wasn't shy or being... yeah. For a moment, Izuku seems conflicted, but Keigo can only guess how many thoughts are running through the boy's brain at the moment. Then the boy smiles brightly and takes his hands back from Keigo, shyly waving to Touya as he settles down into the car seat. "Touya." Aizawa's voice cuts through, Keigo looking over to his dad and Touya resisting the urge to flinch. The tired man is looking through his own open car window with an unreadable expression, making Touya somewhat nervous that he can't read his emotions. "I'm assuming you're staying with us tonight." Touya nods, looking off to the side. Aizawa hums in response. "We'll take you to your house then, so you can pick up necessities, unless you'd rather walk home." The man's eyes carry a certain warmth that Touya can't see yet, but Keigo does. He has always seen it, but Touya... The winged boy looks over to Touya. Aizawa giving Touya a choice won't simply work, especially if they want Touya to drive with them rather than walk home alone, and so he uses the next best thing. Subtle puppy eyes. Touya grimaces at the idea of going to his home with Keigo's family, nervously shifting and glancing over to Keigo for help as a way to get out of answering, but only being hit with wide, curious eyes and fluttering wings. So he looks away quickly as to not give in, only to look toward Izuku, who's bouncing in place again with the most eager and excited look he can possibly get. "You're joking." "Yeah, okay." Touya huffs. "Fine. Jesus. He's gonna have to deal with this the entire time he's at their house, isn't he?" It didn't take too long for Touya to get his things when they went to the boy's house, and Aizawa knows it's because he didn't have much to get in the first place other than clothes and other basic necessities. It makes him angry that Touya didn't have anything special to bring, but at least he knows where Endeavor lived now. Something he'll need for the future when he comes to pick up the rest of the kids and bring them to UA. They pull up to their home, Keigo the first out of the car with Izuku in his arms. He doesn't wait for Touya to get out on his own before he grabs Toya's hand and drags him out of the car, the red-headed boy letting out a surprised noise as he stumbles momentarily. Touya tries to grab his bag, but before he can, Hizashi takes it instead, and Keigo's dragging him toward the front door. Is this normal for the Aizawa family, or... Aizawa, the main name himself, somehow manages to get in front of them in order to unlock the door, and Touya is starting to get weird cryptic ninja sneak vibes from this man. Keigo bursts into the home as soon as the door opens, missing the tired fawn look from both of his dads and Touya. Izuku just giggles as Keigo kicks off his shoes, quickly getting Izuku's off and then rushing toward the living room and jumping onto the couch. He bounces up and down with the hatchling still clinging to him and squealing, hanging on tight. "Keigo Aizawa." "Yamazawa!" Keigo interrupts Aizawa quickly, doing one last jump and landing on his bottom, leaning back onto the couch cushions as Izuku squirms in his grip, still laughing. Aizawa's eyes squint, the man grumbling to himself as the winged boy just snickers. Touya walks over after taking his shoes off, staring at Keigo with this look that says he wants to say something sarcastic, yet he's reluctant to with the adults around. Hizashi walks in and places a hand on Aizawa's back, letting out a laugh when the man sighs, head shaking. How about you two go and get your homework? We both did it already, Pops. Keigo interrupts again smugly, earning a playful glare from the loud man. All right. Don't be normal kids who do your homework at home. I get it. Hizashi pouts, waving a hand around dramatically. How about you show Touya your room, baby bird? I'm sure Izuku would be also happy to tell you about his day while you're at it. Izuku eagerly nods at that, jumping down from Kiko's lap and grabbing his hand. Kiko snorts, standing from the couch and just lifting Izuku into his arms again, making the hatchling squeak. Let's go, Kid Squad, Keigo comments, grabbing Touya's hand with his free one and dragging him toward his room. Maybe you should be in that squad. Aizawa smirks slyly at Hizashi, the man squawking in response. Rude! I'll have you know I'm very much an adult, he whines. Very much adult. Right, I believe you, the tired man says sarcastically and takes a step forward in order to collapse onto the couch. The audacity. Hizashi isn't actually offended. He could never be. He is, however, planning his revenge by adding sugar to Shouta's coffee in the morning. As nighttime approaches and dinner goes as normal as it can with Touya sitting awkwardly the whole time, Keigo helps Izuku into another comfy onesie. This time it's a red bird onesie. He did have one on before, but Keigo assumes that he must have changed clothing halfway through the day, so now he gets another onesie and warm milk before bed because he deserves it. And because Touya has this apparent parental or a brotherly instinct around Izuku and wants to help, probably spoil the hatchling as well, and Keigo's 100% fine with it. Now Izuku's messing with Toya's hair, trying his best to comb it and braid it. Touya has his head laying on Izuku's legs, staying as still as he can while he watches Keigo get the other bed set up for Touya to sleep in. Because apparently Izuku never uses that bed, usually sleeping in Keigo's bed. It's an overly domestic thought, Izuku trusting his older brother so much. God, Touya doesn't think that he can get any fonder for the winged boy yet. There's still something that he's confused about. Keigo doesn't talk about his past at all. The most conversations they've had is about Izuku or his own siblings, and Touya already spilled his guts to Keigo. He doesn't even know why he did it, but he did. It was like something was telling him to, yearning to be heard. He trusted no one else with the information, yet he trusts Keigo. But he still doesn't know about Keigo's past, and everything seems okay here. So domestic. Keigo's dads are overly kind, maybe overbearing sometimes, but why does Keigo show signs of abuse? Touya sees it. He does. The way Keigo sometimes flinches when the lights go off in the classroom, the way Keigo feels the need to hold his wings close to him when people are around. Whenever Keigo accidentally chirps and has to look around to make sure no one heard. Maybe he's reading into it too much. No, there's just something off about how Keigo acts sometimes, like it's fake. Not to say that everything Keigo does is an act, but sometimes things seem forced, as if he's having a bad day and shoving it down. Touya will do the same thing, especially when he's at home. Keigo tends to notice Toya's attitude, however, and adjusts the best that he can so that Touya feels comfortable. Touya tries to do the same for Keigo, but it's hard when he has no idea why Keigo's upset in the first place. What you thinking about? Keigo questions as he lays on his stomach next to Touya and Izuku. Head tilting curiously, Izuku baps his older brother's hand away, and the hawk tries to mess with one of the overly messy braids in Toya's hair, making Keigo snicker at him. I'll tell you later, is all Touya says, looking away from Keigo and up at Izuku. It's making Keigo frown slightly, but he trusts Touya. It can't be anything too bad, right? So, do you ever braid your brother's hair? Touya questions, and Izuku nods rapidly. His hair's harder, to braid, but it's always so curly, and braids look, neat on him, Izuku explains, finishing another braid in Toya's hair with a small smile that makes Touya smile back warmly. And where did you learn to braid? Your brother teach you that, too, or does he lie to me about teaching you things? The redhead had firmly avoided the playful glare that Keigo sends his way, focusing on the way that Izuku giggles sweetly in response. He does teach me things, like how heroes can be bad villains, too, sometimes. He gives me posters of good heroes I like 13, or he looks shyly off to the side. Prism Mike and Eraserhead, and just a lot of underground heroes. They're good. Make sure that everyone is safe. Izuku has Toya's full attention. The redheaded's eyes are full of new admiration for Keigo. Is this how you make a heart melt? But, Dad's the one who taught me to, braid. His hair and Papa's are long, so they're really nice to braid. Izuku hums as he grabs more of Toya's hair and starts to gently braid it. That's pretty cool of Keigo to do that, Touya compliments, which makes the hawk blush and look away. Keigo's right, though. I wish more people would see how bad heroes can be. Not all of them, but, you know. Mm-hmm. Izuku's hands pause in Toya's hair. It's 'cause Key is cool. The hatchling tilts his head, not seeing his big brother's warm look as he tries to get a better look at something. What you looking at? Touya asks as Keigo shuffles closer, eyes squinting at where Izuku was looking. You have some white in your hair, Izuku comments in a response and is gently tying the white piece into the braid that he was making so he wouldn't lose track of it. Toya's eyes widen, and as soon as Izuku finishes tying the braid, he sits up, standing and walking over to the mirror in the room. He first sees the very obvious small braids, and they honestly look good. I love the braids, Touya mumbles aloud, flashing a smile at Izuku, which makes a 5-year-old cheeks redden, and he glances back to the mirror and leans closer, grabbing the braid with the white piece and looking at it closely. You guys don't think I'm becoming a grandpa, do you? That earns a giggle from Izuku and a snort from Keigo. You're too young to be a grandpa. The 5-year-old then turns to the door, eyes flickering to the crack below it where a shadow is hovering by. If anyone's a grandpa here, it's Papa. Hey! Hizashi's voice squawks from the other side of the door, and Izuku immediately bursts into laughter. Stop snooping, Pops. Keigo snickers out loud, getting up from the bed and going up to the door to give it a firm knock. Touya watches the scene smiling, still twirling the braid with the white hair in his fingers. All right, I'm going to bed, but don't forget to brush your teeth, babies. Hizashi hollers, and Touya watches the shadow disappear from beneath the door. Does he do that often? The redhead questions, earning a rapid nod from Izuku and a shrug from Keigo. The siblings' eyes connect, and Izuku's smile gets wider. Wait, he does? The hawk exclaims, only getting another giggle from Izuku as the hatchling jumps off the bed and runs into the bathroom. Susu, you can't hide this information from me. How much has Pops heard? Keigo squawks, pouting when Touya snickers. Didn't you say before that you're amazing at, what was it called, situational awareness? Touya questions sarcastically. Hands moving to rest on his hips, he levels Keigo's non-malicious glare with his own playful glance. I am. Keigo puffs out his cheeks, feathers fluffing up. I was just distracted. Uh-huh. That would not be a good excuse if you decide to be a hero, you know. Touya glances to the door. By the way, your Pops didn't actually leave, and your dad was there with him the entire time. Keigo's mouth gapes as he turns around, grabbing the door handle and flinging the door open, revealing his parents, Aizawa looking off to the side, and Hizashi is trying not to laugh, hand covering his mouth. Shoo! The hawk waves his hands rapidly. Hypocrites! His dad and Papa walk off to their own room, and Aizawa with a smile hidden from view, while Hizashi's snickering. Keigo hops and closes the door again, turning around to be met face-to-face with Touya. He lets out a squeak of surprise, and instead of going backwards like a normal person would, he bonks Toya's forehead with his own going forward. They both stumble, backward in response, Touya immediately laughing while holding his forehead, and Keigo bumping his bedroom door with a startled chirp. You okay? Izuku questions from where he's now standing outside the bathroom, teeth brushed and hands clutching his beloved bunny plushie. He seems genuinely worried. Touya takes immediate notice of how Keigo's eyes sharpened and focused on Izuku, the overprotective look and relaxed posture which Touya supposes is to show Izuku that he's all right. I am, hatchling, just a little bump on my head. Totally Toya's fault, by the way. Keigo sends a not-threatening glare to Touya before actually looking back at his younger brother with a small smile. Izuku smiles back, albeit a bit more wobbly. You tired? The hawk questions, and Izuku goes to shake his head, but then pauses, frowning. Don't want to sleep. Scared of nightmares. Izuku signs hesitantly, biting his lip. Hatchling. Keigo frowns slightly, debating in his head. Do you want to sleep with Pops and Dad tonight? He asks, crouching down in front of Izuku. They're pretty good at warding away any nightmares, yeah? They have special good dream powers, so if you have a nightmare, they'll be able to zap it away. The hawk brings his hands over to grab the hoodie of Izuku's onesie and place it over his fluffy hair, before grabbing the boy's hands with his own. You... Izuku pouts momentarily. You'll be okay alone? I won't be alone, dork. I got Touya here with me, remember? Keigo looks back at Touya, who's staring with an overbearing amount of fondness, and makes the hawk flush slightly as he glances back to Izuku, who's now staring at Touya with an unreadable expression. Okay. Izuku lets himself be picked up by his brother right after sending Touya a small smile in which the redhead returns. I'll be right back. Keigo hums to Touya, sending him his own small smile. He exits the room, leaving Touya to think about what he just saw. It was just like with his younger siblings. The hawk opens his parents' bedroom door, sliding in and meeting two warm gazes with a hint of concern. Aizawa was the first to connect the dots based on Izuku's torn expression and hands gripping nervously at Keigo's sleep shirt. Sleeping here tonight, hon? The tired man questioned softly, earning a tiny nod from the 5-year-old. And you'll be okay with Touya? Aizawa then asked Keigo, the hawk smiling and nodding in response. He hands over his little brother to his dad, Hizashi giving Izuku's hair a ruffle underneath his hoodie. All right, baby bunny, let's get you settled down, His papa takes Izuku from Aizawa and lays the boy in the space between them on the bed. Keigo jumps onto the bed on his knees to quickly reach over and leave a small kiss on his brother's head. Before he can bounce away, Izuku's quick to hug him tightly and give him a kiss on the cheek as well. Keigo smiles fondly, ruffling his brother's hair one last time before pulling away. Night, Pops. Night, Dad. Night, Hatchling. Keigo waves and leaves the room where his parents are to wish them good night, and he's quickly making his way to his own room before he has a second thought on leaving Izuku with his parents. It wasn't that he didn't trust his parents, no, he very much did, with all his heart, but God, sleeping without Izuku by his side? Yeah, that'll take some getting used to. He walks back into his room, to Touya in his pajamas, and laying on the bed, Keigo set up for him, staring aimlessly at the ceiling. He glances over to Keigo when he walks in, raising an eyebrow when the winged boy just walks over after closing the bedroom door and lays beside Touya. No sense of personal space, huh? Touya thinks as he scoots over to make room for the birdie. You gonna tell me what you were thinking about now? Keigo questions, staring down at Touya. And the red-headed boy fidgets before letting out a sigh and nodding. I told you about my shitty life, or a bad life, sorry. Touya murmurs the apology sheepishly, and Keigo just shrugs. Touya only started cussing recently, and it can be a bad habit to break, especially if you're in a bad situation. He doesn't blame his friend at all. But you haven't told me about yourself. Your past, I guess. You act like me sometimes. The implication of that hangs in the air, and Keigo releases a shaky breath of air. I'm not that subtle then, huh? Only to those who don't know what to look for. Touya comments, a worrisome gaze, carrying a certain weight that pulls Keigo down. So I was right. You weren't always here, were you? No. I wasn't. I was at the Hero Commission for most of my life. Touya doesn't like where this is going. Touya wakes up before Keigo does. That being said, he wakes up at 5 a.m. and he can't go back to sleep. There's too much on his mind with what Keigo told him last night, lingering as well. Not only did he learn that Keigo had been used and abused by those who used to run the Hero Commission in order to be the next #1 hero, but Keigo told his parents about his own trauma with his father. The hawk couldn't keep quiet. Too afraid to break Touya's trust, the redhead wasn't angry at his friend. He couldn't be. He did wish that Keigo told him before he went to his dad's, but again, he's not mad. He was nervous about what Aizawa and Yamada would do. Apparently, according to Keigo, his dad was scary when it came to taking down abusive assholes, but his dad and the principal of UA combined was terrifying. Yamada was usually there for emotional support most of the time, but also, according to Keigo, he could be worse than Aizawa, the loud man turning from kind-hearted and not taken seriously to crazy, observational, and threatening. So yeah, Touya was nervous, mostly because Keigo's dad seemed so kind, and he doesn't want his father to end up destroying them. He doesn't want his father taking his anger out on his siblings, either in the case that he's able to see them again, and he can't have that at all. Yet, if he doesn't do anything, then they'll continue to suffer. Shouta especially. He's willing to take this risk, because maybe he has too much trust in Keigo, or maybe he's just too tired to continue on with the way things are going right now, and if it's not this route, then it's a different route, and any other route seems so much scarier. So yeah, he can't go back to sleep. He could always get up and maybe snatch some coffee without permission, but he's almost certain Aizawa would catch him. Plus, he has another issue that's keeping him awake, or well, not really an issue, it's just that Keigo fell asleep on top of him last night, so he feels obligated to not move. It's not like he knows that Keigo is uncomfortable sleeping alone or anything like that, not at all. Touya lets out a long sigh. Looks like he'll be here for another hour or so. He doesn't really mind. Sleeping Keigo is somehow adorable. The way his wings are fluffed up and tucked against his back, his face relaxed in soft smiles and sniffles mixed with chirps escaping him, it was so pure and just Keigo. The hawk may or may not be partly drooling on his shirt, but that's fine. It'll dry, sure. His standards aren't that high, huh? He fell asleep on you. Touya startles at the voice that comes from the doorway, and he freezes when Keigo shifts but settles down when Touya lays a hand on top of the blonde's head. The redhead's eyes then flicker up toward Aizawa, who's staring at him, leaning on the doorway with a reassuring look. Mm-hmm. Touya hums, starting to gently run his hands through the messy blonde hair. Keigo lets out a squeaky chirp, wings twitching. Touya's heart melts a little bit. I'm assuming he told you. Aizawa doesn't need to clarify, especially since it's the main thing on Touya's mind. The boy just nods, and the tired man lets out a soft sigh. All right. You want anything in specific for breakfast? Otherwise, I'll just make pancakes and bacon, maybe some eggs. The redhead frowns. Was Aizawa not going to comment any further? I'm fine with whatever. Touya mumbles, mind halting for a moment. Wait. I thought you weren't allowed to cook because you caused a fire. Aizawa's at first taken aback by the sudden sarcasm, then he pouts. That was a month ago, brat. The tired man grumbles, making Touya snort. Aizawa sticks his tongue out for a second before turning around and exiting the room. I'll be in the kitchen if you need me, the man says, and he goes, waving his hand. Key! Izuku squeals as he bursts into their room an hour later. Oya! Keigo startles awake, and Touya has to catch the birdie before he rolls off the bed. Steadying the blondie as he tiredly looks around, he watches as Keigo sleepily raises a hand and pats Izuku on the head, yawning widely. Weird. I expected Keigo to be the one who's energetic in the mornings. Touya comments, earning a giggle from Izuku. He usually is. Hizashi laughs as he walks in, picking Izuku up from behind and making the boy squeak. Izuku squirms in his papa's grip, legs refusing to stay still. Just give him a few minutes and then you'll have both of these two to deal with. Can't wait. Touya deadpans, ignoring the fact that Keigo leans back into his chest without a care. Breakfast is ready. Eat before you get ready for the day, Aizawa says as he passes by the door, and Touya pretends that he doesn't see the bright yellow sleeping bag he drags behind him. Cryptid family, he swears. 30 minutes later finds Keigo chasing after Izuku through the halls and into the living room, trying to get the boy to brush his teeth and put on his shoes. Touya just watches in pure amusement from where he sat on the couch, eyes flickering over to Aizawa, who's nursing his second coffee and staring with a tiredly fond look. Izuku suddenly stops running by the couch, turning around rapidly and taking a defensive posture. Keigo stops, and his eyes squint at his younger brother, both of them staring each other down until the hatchling grabs one of the shoes that he managed to snag from Keigo and throws it at his older brother. He purposely misses, however, knowing Keigo would still try to dodge despite the purposeful misthrow, and the hatchling then tries to make another run for it, but he crashes into Aizawa's legs when the man stands up and squeals when he gets picked up. No throwing things, the man scolds, holding Izuku with one arm when he takes another long sip from his coffee with the other. Sorry, Dad. Izuku apologizes, which just earns him a kiss on the forehead from his dad. You're not, but you won't do it again, so I forgive you, Aizawa states, making Izuku pout. Easy, Sho. What if he wants to throw a frisbee later on, huh? Hizashi questions, hand coming to lay on top of Keigo's head as he enters the room. The hawk snorts, grabbing his papa's hand to remove it and walking forward to sit by Touya on the couch. As long as it's not in the house where he'll break anything, it's fine, Aizawa comments dryly, exiting the room in order to do Keigo's job of putting on the boy's shoes and getting his teeth brushed. Well, you boys ready for school? Hizashi asks, and plops onto the couch beside Keigo, bringing an arm around the boy's shoulders and tugging him close. Keigo pouts, cheeks puffing out in embarrassment. Yup. Touya pops the pea and leans his head back onto the couch, starting to feel a little overwhelmed with the pure domestic energy of this family. Yeah, Pops. Keigo doesn't make a move to shove his pops away, too fond of any affection to let it go despite his embarrassment. Are you ready for work? Keigo and Touya both pointedly look at Hizashi, who's still in his pajamas. The man lets himself smile triumphantly, standing up from the couch and putting his hands on his hips. It's pajama day all day, little listeners. The loud man hollers, arms extending into the air as he does a dramatic twirl. He means he doesn't work today. Aizawa deadpans as he walks in holding Izuku, who's starting to look nervous now that it was almost time for them to leave. His dad lets his son fidget and cling onto his capture scarf, a comforting hand rubbing up and down his back. Wait, Pops, don't you have a class to teach? Keigo questions, and his eyebrows raise at Hizashi's sudden awkward laugh. He does, technically, but Nezu's forcing him to take some time off because he never does on his own free will. Shouta squints when Hizashi sends him a pout. And no, I'm not going to comment on that because I don't take breaks either. That explains the coffee, Touya mutters, and it makes Hizashi laugh aloud. Aizawa chooses not to mention the way that Touya had been staring down his coffee the entire time during breakfast. He's way too young to want coffee. All right, little listeners, better get going. You don't want to be late, Hizashi explains, marching on over to the front door after ruffling Izuku's hair. So, you're just gonna drive us to school in your pajamas? Keigo questions as he stands, following his papa with Touya not too far behind. Yup, Hizashi smirks. Sounds about right, Touya comments, making Aizawa snort. Hito! Izuku squeaks out, going as quickly as he can up to his new friend in the classroom. The boy in question looks up, squinting somewhat because of how bright the boy was in front of him. Hey, Izuku. The boy Shinso signs with a shy look. Izuku's quick to catch on and starts signing instead of talking. How are you? I'm okay, how are you? Shinso's eyes flicker around the room for a moment, looking out for when the teacher comes in. Good, and guess what? Izuku's basically vibrating in place as he hops up and down, though reluctantly settles down when weird looks are thrown his way. Shinso doesn't glare at those people or anything like that. He doesn't. Why would he? Anyways, what? I might have a quirk. Izuku's smile brightens to a considerably large amount, and Shinso doesn't quite smile, but his eyebrows do raise in surprise. Really? Do you know what it might be? Shinso signs in curiosity. And why did you think you were quirkless? Izuku pauses at that, frowning softly and staring at the ground with a shrug. Shinso's smart enough for a 5-year-old to not push him, so instead he just pushes his crayons forward and some paper. Want to draw? Izuku's smile returns, and he nods rapidly, making his curls bounce. Yes. All right, everyone. This concludes Chapter 6 of Fallen Baby Birds. Chapter 7 will be next. Again, there's only 9 chapters to this one, so we're getting close to the end of this. Hope you all are still enjoying, and as always, thank you so much for listening.